G'day there everyone, Daniel Anderson here. Now the humble SharePoint document library is the focus of this video, a true fundamental of SharePoint, and having an understanding of these is critical to the success of your document management and your SharePoint site. So in this video, we're going to take a look at how we can create document libraries, the columns in document libraries, the command bar, how we upload and download files, how we create folders, how we create columns, a real deep dive into the basics of a SharePoint document library. So let's get stuck into it. I'm on a SharePoint team site, and you can see that every single SharePoint site comes with a default document library. It's just called Documents. Now, when I click on Documents, I'm taken to that library. Now, this is where we store all of our documents, right? Or we can store our documents. So our files, PowerPoint, Word, Excel, PDF, any type of file we can upload into these libraries. Now you can see here, this is a little bit of a different view of our library because this SharePoint site is connected to a Microsoft team. So we can see that we've got a little filtered view here where we can see the folders that are inside or are connected to a Microsoft Teams channel. That's for another video. What we're going to do first is we're going to create a brand new document library because we can have more than one. So I'm going to create a new document library, and let's call this one, we'll start with a blank document library. Now we can see that we can create a new document library from an out-of-the-box template that Microsoft now provide. So we've got a media library, we've got one for invoices, we've got one for learning, and we can choose to create one from an existing library. Now, we're going to just choose a blank library. So we'll choose blank library and we'll go SOWs. All right, so let's go for statements of work. This library is going to be specifically for our statements of work. We can write a description. Now, if we do and are using sensitivity labels, we can select a sensitivity label for this library at this point in time. We can also show this site in the navigation. Now, I will leave this on. That's going to make this library appear automatically on the left-hand side in the navigation. We'll hit create. It's going to now spin up a blank document library that we can start to use. Now, this is the default view. And you can see here that we've got a name, we've got modified by, and we can add additional columns. Now these columns here, modified and modified by, are what we call default metadata columns that are just there with our document library without us having to do anything. So there is a document library comes with a set of default metadata that we can use. Now, when we click on add a column, we can see here that we can show or hide columns. So when I click on show or hide columns, you can see all of these default out of the box system generated columns that we can use. Now we can also see we've got created and created by. I'll hit apply, and now we've got 4 columns that have been added just to this library. It doesn't affect any other library. We're in the SOW library here, and it is only affecting this library. Now we can see this navigation bar at the top here, or the command bar as we call it. We've got a few different options that we can use through here. We've got the new button, where we can click on this little drop down arrow. We can create new folders, and we can create different types of blank documents automatically inside of this document library. We can then also upload our files. So we can upload files, we can upload folders, we can also upload templates. We can edit in grid view. Now this is good if we have lots of documents in this library. We've got some metadata or columns with some values that we want to apply or set per document. We can edit in grid view, and that will pop this library into like a spreadsheet type of view where we can adjust all of our metadata. We can sync this library to our computer. We can add a shortcut to OneDrive, meaning it's just going to add a pointer to our OneDrive for Business, which we can then access from anywhere that we've got our OneDrive installed or accessible. We can access this document library from there as well. We can pin it to quick access, export to Excel, and then we can get into some automation and some integration as well. Now, remembering whenever we see these 3 little dots, we've got a little context menu behind that. In our case, we've got Alert Me and Manage Alerts. So Let's create a new folder first. I'm going to click on new and I'm going to click on folder. We're taken to our create folder wizard. Now what we can do also is choose a folder color. So I'm just going to choose blue and let's call this, we'll just call this one folder 1. All right. So we'll call this one folder 1 and we'll create that folder there. Now we can also create our files here. So we can see we can create a new Word document that's going to open up in Word Online. And we're taking open in another tab and you can see that we're creating a new blank Word document. Let's just add some text in here like so. And the top menu up here, you can see whenever we create a new document in this manner, it's always given the name document. So obviously we want to name our document and give it a nice file name. So let's just go statement of work for Copilot Studio. All right, we'll give that the file name and you can see that there now that name has been changed. Now, when we click on this name, we can navigate our way back to our document library. And we can see here that this file has now been created just in the top level of the document library. We've got our folder here. We can jump into our folder and we can do exactly the same thing. Okay, so we can create our files, create subsets of folders inside of here as well. Now, you'll notice when I select a file here that the command bar options change. So I'll untick it. You can see we've got these options. We'll tick it and you can see that we've got different options here. We've got share, we've got copy link, we've got delete. We can pin this to the top of this document library too. So if you think of a document library that might have hundreds or thousands of documents in it, and we want to provide users quick access to frequently used documents, we can pin these documents to the top of this library and this particular view of this library here. We can see that we've now got a nice little thumbnail on top of the document list. We can then also edit the pin and unpin it. All right. So again, I'll select this document. We can add a shortcut. We can click, we can add a shortcut to our My Files, or we can even add a shortcut to other locations or other document libraries. So when I click on other locations, we can see that we will have the option to select other places, more places, other places that we can then add a shortcut to this particular file. All right, so a nice little way to then not have multiple copies of this document, but just a pointer or a shortcut back to this particular file. You can see we can download, and again, we've got our 3 little dots where we can rename, we can integrate with Power Automate, we've got some rules, we can move, we can copy, we can see the properties, we've got the version history here as well, which will be the topic of another SharePoint fundamentals video as well. We can manage our alerts and we can check the document out as well. Okay, so what about our columns? We've got our default columns here, and again we go to add column, we can show or hide columns, and these are the default columns that come with an out of the box, what we call an out of the box document library. But what if we wanted to add a custom column to this library? Well, we can do that via add a column, and you can see that we've got different column types here. Let's choose a choice column and we'll click next. That's going to allow me to now create this column. Now, an important thing to note here is that this column is only added to this document library, and we can't reuse this column across other libraries in this site or across any other site that's in our tenant. It's scoped just to this document library. So let's just call this one status. Let's get some choices. Let's go new. Let's go approved. Let's go in review, and let's go rejected. All right, so that's going to give a visual indication of the status of each individual document. I'll hit save. Now we can see that that status column has been added to the library. But if I go to this other document library here, you can see that we don't have that, or even those columns that we added to the statement of work library, we don't have those columns. It's a completely separate document library. So we'll click on SOW again. Now let's just give this particular document here, let's set the metadata. So I'm going to select the document. I'll click on the information icon in the top right hand corner, and then I'll scroll down and I can see the properties properties here. So I can see the properties of this document, and I'll set that to status, to approved, and then we are good to go. So it's saving. We'll give it a title as well. So let's go for statement of work, and you can see here the reason that's not setting is that it's locked and being used. So what we have to do first is we actually have to close this document down. All right, we'll close this properties down. Let's select this file. We'll hit the information icon here as well. And now let's jump into status. We'll go to approved. It's saving, and you can see that that status has now automatically been changed to approved. Now, what we might also do is let's just add a few more documents to this library. So we're just going to, I'll open up my file explorer, and we can also drag and drop our documents. So I've got a folder open here. Now let's just drag and drop a few documents. I'll drag these across on top of this statement of work library, and you can see that these files are now being uploaded, and here they are here. Now, we mentioned edit in grid view just before. So I'm going to pop this edit in grid, click this edit in grid view, and now we're taken to a different view. This gives us a nice quick way to be able to adjust and set these values. So you can see I've just dragged and dropped or set a status in this column, but I'm using, like in Excel, the little crosshair, and I'm dragging the values down this column. I've now set those, and I can exit the grid view. So now what we've got is all of our statuses set for our content. We can delete as well. So I'm going to just delete this folder and leave us with the file. So I'll select the folder, I'll hit delete, or we need to confirm it, and now that folder has gone. Now, the last thing we're going to do here is have a look at how we can filter or create a view of this document library using that status column. So I'm going to click the little drop down, and I can say filter by, and let's filter by all of the documents that are in review. So now I've got this document, this view of this library, this filtered view that's called in review. Top right hand corner of our document library is where we can access or create custom views. I'll click the all documents, the default view. I can save this view as a different document. All right, so different view. So let's go in review, and we'll hit save. All right, so now we've got this view that says in review, but we've also got all documents, and we can go back and forth between the different views. We can also do a different type of view here as well, where I can group by status. So let's group these by status, and you can see that I've got 1 approved, 2 in review, and 2 that are new. And again, I'm going to say, click up here, I'm going to save this view as, and let's call this grouped by status, and we'll hit save. Now what we've got are 3 views. We've got the default all documents, we've got a view that's just showing us the documents that are in review, and now we've also got a grouped by status view as well. So adding metadata or columns to your library can really enhance the user experience of a particular document library. Now, typically we may have used folders for that. So we may have had an approved folder, an in review folder, and a new folder. But now what we can do is use the power of metadata, our views, our groupings to create a different type of user experience here. The great thing is we can't have the same file name. So we're not going to have those duplicate files or a decision to make as to what folder a document is actually stored in. All right, so there we have it. The humble SharePoint document library, a great starting point, a fundamental of SharePoint document management. That is the first one. There's multiple different, there'll be follow-on videos in this series, the SharePoint Fundamental series about SharePoint document libraries. So make sure you follow along, and then you can become an expert in document libraries inside of SharePoint. Thanks for watching. See you in the next episode.